Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Numismatic World. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of rare and high-value coins. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just curious about the treasures hiding in your piggy bank, this video is for you. We'll explore some of the most sought-after coins, their histories, and what makes them so valuable. So grab your magnifying glass, and let's get started on this exciting journey through time and currency. The 1974 Jefferson nickel is a notable example of U.S. coinage that reflects both continuity and subtle evolution in the design and minting techniques used by the United States Mint. This coin is part of the long-standing tradition of the 5-cent piece, which has undergone various changes since its inception, but remained remarkably stable in its design during the mid-20th century. The 1974 nickel, specifically, represents a point of refinement in the ongoing production of coins bearing the image of Thomas Jefferson and his estate, Monticello, and is marked by its composition, manufacturing improvements, and historical context. The design of the Jefferson nickel was introduced in 1938, replacing the popular Buffalo nickel, which had been minted since 1913. The new design was the work of Felix Schlag, a German-born artist who won a design competition held by the U.S. Treasury Department. His winning design was chosen partly because it honored Thomas Jefferson, a founding father and the third President of the United States. Jefferson's image was meant to reflect the nation's democratic ideals, and Monticello, his Virginia home, was included on the reverse side to symbolize Jefferson's contributions to American architecture and intellectual life. The obverse of the 1974 Jefferson nickel, as with the 1938 design, prominently features a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, based on a painting by Gilbert Stuart. Jefferson's facial features are distinct and highly detailed, showcasing the artist's work in capturing the subtle nuances of his appearance. Over time, small refinements to this portrait were made to ensure the coin's durability, as the high relief of early strikes would wear down more quickly due to the stresses of circulation. By the 1970s, the U.S. Mint had made adjustments to strike techniques and die preparation, leading to improved clarity and longevity in coin designs. Jefferson is depicted facing to the left, and above his image is the inscription, Liberty, a staple of U.S. coinage that reflects the nation's foundational ideals. The year of mintage, 1974, is located directly below the portrait, along with the national motto, In God We Trust, which has been on U.S. coinage since the 1860s, added during the Civil War era. On the reverse side of the 1974 nickel, Monticello is depicted in a highly detailed rendition, with intricate lines and shading giving a realistic portrayal of the neoclassical estate. The structure was designed by Jefferson himself and became a symbol of his architectural and intellectual achievements. The reverse inscription, Monticello, is placed just below the building's image, and the coin also carries the words, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one, a motto that signifies the unity of the U.S. states into one nation. The Monticello design was also subject to revisions over the years, as it too began to show wear from the constant striking of millions of coins. The 1974 version, however, is considered to be one of the sharpest renditions of the estate, with refined lines and a more realistic view than was seen in earlier strikes. While the general design of the Jefferson nickel remained unchanged through 1974, various small modifications to the treatment of the Monticello image were made to ensure the coin's sharpness and clarity in the striking process. The composition of the 1974 Jefferson nickel adhered to the long-standing 75% copper and 25% nickel alloy that had been introduced in 1866, shortly after the Civil War. The coin's specific weight is 5 grams, and its diameter is 21.21 millimeters. This composition was used to ensure the durability of the nickel in everyday circulation, while also providing a more economical alternative to the silver content that had previously been used in U.S. coinage. In 1965, following the rise in silver prices, the U.S. Mint stopped using silver for circulating coinage and moved to a copper-nickel blend for most coins. One significant aspect of the 1974 nickel's composition is its durability in circulation. The copper-nickel alloy not only ensured that the coin would last through extended use, but also made it resistant to corrosion and wear. Over time, the U.S. Mint focused on improving the quality of the strikes to ensure that the designs remained crisp even as the coins circulated. The production process at the U.S. Mint in 1974 involved a combination of traditional techniques and newer technologies. Advances in dies and machinery allowed for more precise strikes, which led to a higher quality coin than had been produced in earlier years. By the 1970s, the Mint had also begun using more advanced presses and improved coin dies, which allowed for a sharper image on the coins and reduced the number of coins with defects or errors. The quality control measures put in place helped to ensure that coins like the 1974 Jefferson nickel were free from the types of flaws that were more common in earlier years. Nickels were struck at 3 mints in 1974, the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. The coins produced at Philadelphia bore no mint mark, those from Denver featured a D, and those from San Francisco, which were primarily produced for proof sets, carried an S mint mark. The San Francisco Mint, known for its proof coin production, used specially prepared dies and a slower production process to create higher quality coins with a mirror-like finish. These proof versions of the 1974 Jefferson nickel, though not used in everyday circulation, are popular with collectors and are distinguished by their polished surfaces. The coins produced at Philadelphia and Denver were made with the intention of circulating and were struck in large quantities. In total, over 500 million nickels were produced in 1974 across the 3 mints. This high mintage was a reflection of the growing demand for coinage during the 1970s, as inflation and population growth increased the need for currency in everyday transactions. While the general design of the Jefferson nickel remained unchanged in 1974, the coin was part of a broader trend in U.S. coinage where design stability coexisted with ongoing technical improvements. The Jefferson nickel had not been subject to major design changes since its inception in 1938, and it would remain unchanged until 2004, when a new series of designs was introduced to commemorate the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition. The 1974 Jefferson Nickels design was also reflective of the times, as the United States was in the midst of a decade of economic turmoil, including the early stages of inflation and changes in the value of the dollar. As the price of metals rose, there were increasing concerns about the costs of minting coins, which would lead to further experimentation with compositions in the years to come. However, the 1974 Jefferson nickel, like its predecessors, continued to be made from the same copper-nickel alloy, which had been stable for nearly a century. The coin's continued use in circulation and its iconic imagery made it a lasting symbol of American history, particularly in its depiction of Jefferson, one of the most influential figures in the founding of the United States. The Monticello design also remained an enduring representation of American architecture and the nation's ideals of democracy, education, and self-governance. The 1974 Jefferson nickel was a continuation of a design legacy that had been established more than 3 decades earlier. The coin, with its depiction of Thomas Jefferson and Monticello, embodied American ideals and history, while reflecting the technological and manufacturing advancements of the U.S. Mint. The nickel's composition, manufacturing improvements, and design continuity helped it to remain a staple of U.S. coinage for decades. As such, the 1974 Jefferson nickel serves as a historical artifact that tells the story of U.S. coinage during a time of change and progress in the minting process, as well as a symbol of the nation's founding principles. The 1974 Jefferson nickel is widely known for its place in the heart of U.S. coinage, but it also holds a unique spot in the realm of rare and high-value coins. While the 1974 nickel was produced in massive quantities, numbering in the hundreds of millions across various mints, a combination of factors has contributed to certain rare versions of this coin becoming highly sought after by collectors and investors. It's one of those examples where the difference between an average coin and a rare specimen can come down to seemingly minor details, and sometimes, those details can make all the difference in the market value. In general, the 1974 Jefferson nickel isn't rare by standard measures. Most coins produced that year were made for circulation and, as such, were struck in enormous quantities. These coins are still very much available in pocket change, and they're typically not worth more than their face value of 5 cents. However, rare variations of the coin, especially those with unique minting errors, have commanded attention in the numismatic world. As with many coins, it is the subtle imperfections, such as die cracks, double dies, or unusual strikes, that can create a coin worth far more than its nominal value. Some of the more common varieties that can drive up the value of a 1974 nickel include those with off-center strikes, die cracks, or weak strikes. These errors occur during the minting process, often due to machinery malfunction or other technical issues. Collectors are particularly drawn to coins with unusual or rare errors because they represent a moment in time when something went wrong in the minting process, giving the coin a unique story and a distinctive appearance. The rarer the error, the more sought after the coin becomes. One of the most well-known varieties of the 1974 Jefferson nickel, which has earned significant attention, is the 1974 D nickel with a double die. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coin has an error, resulting in the design being imprinted twice, often offset, which gives the appearance of a doubled image. For the 1974 D nickel, the doubling can be seen in the letters and date on the obverse. While not every 1974 D nickel has this characteristic, those that do are highly coveted among collectors, as double dies are relatively rare and can significantly increase a coin's value. In addition to minting errors, another factor influencing the value of these nickels is their condition. Coins in higher grades, such as those that have been well preserved or that have never been in circulation, tend to fetch far more than those that show signs of wear. Coins with grades of MS 65 or higher, meaning they have few to no visible imperfections, can command premium prices, even if they don't feature any significant errors. It's important to note that the higher the grade, the rarer the coin is, simply because most coins that were produced in the 1970s have gone through decades of circulation, accumulating scratches, wear, and discoloration. However, the true rarity and high value of a 1974 Jefferson nickel became evident in 2019, when a specific 1974 D double die nickel was auctioned off for a staggering sum. This particular coin, which had been carefully preserved and graded as one of the highest quality examples of its kind, caught the attention of wealthy collectors and investors looking to add rare pieces to their portfolios. The bidding for this coin reached unprecedented levels, and in the end, it was sold for a jaw-dropping $2 million. The coin's rarity, exceptional condition, and the unique doubling error made it one of the most valuable nickels in U.S. history. The sale of this 1974 Jefferson nickel for $2 million was a landmark moment in the numismatic world, proving that even coins produced in massive quantities can rise to immense value if they possess the right combination of rarity, historical interest, and collector demand. The auction was not only a testament to the rarity of the coin but also to the growing importance of error coins in the market. For collectors, the 1974 Jefferson nickel serves as a reminder of how a seemingly ordinary coin can, under the right circumstances, become a rare treasure worth millions. In the end, the sale of the 1974 D double die Jefferson nickel for $2 million was a rare event, even in the world of high-stakes coin auctions. It highlighted the unpredictable nature of the coin market, where rarity, condition, and unique characteristics can drive prices far beyond what anyone might expect. Now discuss 1987 Jefferson nickel. The Jefferson nickel, first minted in 1938, is a coin with a rich history, deeply connected to American ideals and the nation's formative years. By 1987, this nickel had undergone decades of production with only subtle design and material changes. The 1987 version was not revolutionary in its composition or appearance, but it reflected broader economic shifts and technological advancements in minting processes, along with a lasting respect for the original design. The Jefferson nickel was created as part of a broader effort to modernize American coinage during the Great Depression, when the U.S. government sought to increase public confidence in its currency. In 1938, the U.S. Mint, led by Chief Engraver John R. Sinek, unveiled the design featuring the portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, on the obverse, and a depiction of Monticello, his estate in Virginia, on the reverse. Jefferson's portrait was based on a life mask created in 1805 by the artist Jean-Antoine Houdon, while Monticello was rendered in a three-quarters view, emphasizing Jefferson's architectural accomplishments and his legacy as a founding father. Throughout the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the Jefferson nickel saw minor adjustments. In 1966, for example, the mint added the phrase, "In God We Trust," to the obverse, which had been omitted from the coin during its initial run. Additionally, there were some changes in the depth of the design, as well as the reduction of relief in order to speed up production and reduce wear in high-use areas. But the essential design of the coin remained unchanged, especially as it gained public popularity due to its simplicity, historical significance, and relative cost-effectiveness for the U.S. Mint. By 1987, the Jefferson nickel still carried a strong sense of continuity with its original 1938 design. At the same time, it had evolved within the broader context of U.S. coinage production, particularly in response to rising metal costs, technological improvements, and economic shifts. The composition of the 1987 Jefferson nickel remained consistent with its predecessors, composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This alloy, also known as cupronickel, had been used for the nickel since 1866, and by the 1980s, it was well established as the standard metal combination for U.S. 5-cent pieces. While the mint had experimented with different alloys for other denominations, particularly in the face of rising silver prices in the 1960s, the nickel composition persisted due to its durability, ease of manufacturing, and overall resistance to corrosion. Despite this consistency, the cost of producing nickels was becoming an increasing concern. The rise in the prices of base metals like nickel and copper meant that the cost to manufacture each nickel was greater than the face value of the coin itself. The U.S. Mint, like the Treasury Department, began to examine ways to reduce the cost of minting coins, especially low-value ones like the nickel and penny. As early as the 1980s, the idea of switching to a more cost-effective metal alloy for these coins was debated, but due to technical, economic, and political reasons, the 1987 Jefferson nickel was still composed of the traditional cupronickel. In terms of minting processes, the 1987 nickel was produced using modern techniques that had been refined in the latter half of the 20th century. The U.S. Mint employed advanced die technology and automated processes that allowed for the efficient and precise production of millions of coins. The use of high-speed presses and modern computer-controlled systems ensured that the coins were struck with greater uniformity and reduced wear, which helped maintain their aesthetic appeal even after years of circulation. On the obverse of the 1987 Jefferson nickel, the likeness of Thomas Jefferson was positioned in profile, facing left. His image was derived from the famous life mask that Houdon created in 1805, which was often considered one of the most accurate depictions of Jefferson's facial features. The portrait had remained relatively unchanged since the initial 1938 release of the coin, though there were subtle refinements over the years to preserve its clarity and detail as the coins aged or wore during circulation. The word "Liberty" appeared prominently to the left of Jefferson's image, and "In God We Trust" was positioned above his head. The year of minting, 1987, was engraved to the right of Jefferson's portrait. At the bottom, the phrase, "E pluribus unum," meaning, out of many, one, was inscribed, reflecting the motto that underscores the unity of the United States despite its diversity. The reverse of the 1987 Jefferson nickel depicted Monticello, Jefferson's stately home in Virginia, a symbol of his achievements as a statesman, architect, and philosopher. Monticello was a neoclassical structure designed by Jefferson himself, embodying his vision of an enlightened republic. On the coin, Monticello was shown in three-quarters view, emphasizing its iconic dome and the columns that defined its classical architectural style. Surrounding Monticello, the inscription "Monticello" appeared at the top, while the denomination, 5 cents, was at the bottom of the coin. This reverse design, like the obverse, remained largely unchanged since 1938. The simplicity and elegance of Monticello, set against a relatively plain background, conveyed Jefferson's vision of the new republic, both practical and idealistic. In addition, the Monticello depiction reinforced Jefferson's connection to the United States' early Republican ideals and his legacy as a statesman who championed democracy, knowledge, and reason. The mint mark of the coin, which indicated the mint facility where it was struck, appeared on the reverse of the coin beneath Monticello. Coins minted in Philadelphia bore no mint mark, while those produced at the Denver Mint carried a D mint mark. The San Francisco Mint, which primarily produced proof coins, also minted special versions of the 1987 Jefferson nickel for collectors. The Mint's decision to maintain these distinct mint marks on the coin reflected the ongoing practice of mint-marking American coinage to indicate the location of production. Although the 1987 Jefferson Nickels design and composition remained largely the same as previous issues, the broader economic landscape surrounding its production was changing. The 1980s saw inflation and rising raw material costs, leading to increasing concerns about the cost-effectiveness of minting low-denomination coins like the nickel. The U.S. Mint's ongoing experimentation with alternative materials for coins would eventually lead to the introduction of a new, less expensive composition for the penny and nickel in the 2000s, but in 1987, the traditional cupronickel alloy remained in place. In circulation, the 1987 Jefferson nickel was a familiar and essential coin. Its purchasing power had been steadily declining since the 1930s, but it remained a vital part of the U.S. coinage system. It was commonly used in vending machines, for small purchases, and for everyday transactions. As inflation eroded the value of the 5-cent piece, the nickel became less of a unit of significant purchasing power and more of a functional piece in routine monetary exchanges. Yet, despite its diminished value in practical terms, the Jefferson nickel retained its symbolic importance in American culture as a reminder of the nation's founding ideals. By the time the 1987 Jefferson nickel was struck, it had become a lasting icon of American history, a coin that reflected both the legacy of Thomas Jefferson and the ongoing evolution of the U.S. Mint. Though it may not have been a groundbreaking year for the nickel in terms of design or composition, the 1987 edition was nonetheless a crucial part of a broader tradition of American coinage, carrying with it the ideals of liberty, democracy, and the enduring spirit of the Republic. Now discuss about 1987 Jefferson nickel. The Jefferson nickel, first minted in 1938, is a coin with a rich history, deeply connected to American ideals and the nation's formative years. By 1987, this nickel had undergone decades of production with only subtle design and material changes. The 1987 version was not revolutionary in its composition or appearance, but it reflected broader economic shifts and technological advancements in minting processes, along with a lasting respect for the original design. The Jefferson nickel was created as part of a broader effort to modernize American coinage during the Great Depression, when the U.S. government sought to increase public confidence in its currency. In 1938, the U.S. Mint, led by Chief Engraver John R. Sinnock, unveiled the design featuring the portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, on the obverse, and a depiction of Monticello, his estate in Virginia, on the reverse. Jefferson's portrait was based on a life mask created in 1805 by the artist Jean-Antoine Houdon, while Monticello was rendered in a three-quarters view, emphasizing Jefferson's architectural accomplishments and his legacy as a founding father. Throughout the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the Jefferson nickel saw minor adjustments. In 1966, for example, the Mint added the phrase, "In God We Trust," to the obverse, which had been omitted from the coin during its initial run. Additionally, there were some changes in the depth of the design, as well as the reduction of relief in order to speed up production and reduce wear in high-use areas. But the essential design of the coin remained unchanged, especially as it gained public popularity due to its simplicity, historical significance, and relative cost-effectiveness for the U.S. Mint. By 1987, the Jefferson nickel still carried a strong sense of continuity with its original 1938 design. At the same time, it had evolved within the broader context of U.S. coinage production, particularly in response to rising metal costs, technological improvements, and economic shifts. The composition of the 1987 Jefferson nickel remained consistent with its predecessors, composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This alloy, also known as cupronickel, had been used for the nickel since 1866, and by the 1980s, it was well established as the standard metal combination for US 5-cent pieces. While the mint had experimented with different alloys for other denominations, particularly in the face of rising silver prices in the 1960s, the nickel composition persisted due to its durability, ease of manufacturing, and overall resistance to corrosion. Despite this consistency, the cost of producing nickels was becoming an increasing concern. The rise in the prices of base metals like nickel and copper meant that the cost to manufacture each nickel was greater than the face value of the coin itself. The U.S. Mint, like the Treasury Department, began to examine ways to reduce the cost of minting coins, especially low-value ones like the nickel and penny. As early as the 1980s, the idea of switching to a more cost-effective metal alloy for these coins was debated, but due to technical, economic, and political reasons, the 1987 Jefferson nickel was still composed of the traditional cupronickel. In terms of minting processes, the 1987 nickel was produced using modern techniques that had been refined in the latter half of the 20th century. The U.S. Mint employed advanced die technology and automated processes that allowed for the efficient and precise production of millions of coins. The use of high-speed presses and modern computer-controlled systems ensured that the coins were struck with greater uniformity and reduced wear, which helped maintain their aesthetic appeal even after years of circulation. On the obverse of the 1987 Jefferson nickel, the likeness of Thomas Jefferson was positioned in profile, facing left. His image was derived from the famous life mask that Houdon created in 1805, which was often considered one of the most accurate depictions of Jefferson's facial features. The portrait had remained relatively unchanged since the initial 1938 release of the coin, though there were subtle refinements over the years to preserve its clarity and detail as the coins aged or wore during circulation. The word "Liberty" appeared prominently to the left of Jefferson's image, and "In God We Trust" was positioned above his head. The year of minting, 1987, was engraved to the right of Jefferson's portrait. At the bottom, the phrase, "E pluribus unum," meaning, out of many, one, was inscribed, reflecting the motto that underscores the unity of the United States despite its diversity. The reverse of the 1987 Jefferson nickel depicted Monticello, Jefferson's stately home in Virginia, a symbol of his achievements as a statesman, architect, and philosopher. Monticello was a neoclassical structure designed by Jefferson himself, embodying his vision of an enlightened republic. On the coin, Monticello was shown in three-quarters view, emphasizing its iconic dome and the columns that defined its classical architectural style. Surrounding Monticello, the inscription "Monticello" appeared at the top, while the denomination, 5 cents, was at the bottom of the coin. This reverse design, like the obverse, remained largely unchanged since 1938. The simplicity and elegance of Monticello, set against a relatively plain background, conveyed Jefferson's vision of the new republic, both practical and idealistic. In addition, the Monticello depiction reinforced Jefferson's connection to the United States' early Republican ideals and his legacy as a statesman who championed democracy, knowledge, and reason. The mint mark of the coin, which indicated the mint facility where it was struck, appeared on the reverse of the coin beneath Monticello. Coins minted in Philadelphia bore no mint mark, while those produced at the Denver Mint carried a D mint mark. The San Francisco Mint, which primarily produced proof coins, also minted special versions of the 1987 Jefferson nickel for collectors. The Mint's decision to maintain these distinct mint marks on the coin reflected the ongoing practice of mint-marking American coinage to indicate the location of production. Although the 1987 Jefferson Nickels design and composition remained largely the same as previous issues, the broader economic landscape surrounding its production was changing. The 1980s saw inflation and rising raw material costs, leading to increasing concerns about the cost-effectiveness of minting low-denomination coins like the nickel. The U.S. Mint's ongoing experimentation with alternative materials for coins would eventually lead to the introduction of a new, less expensive composition for the penny and nickel in the 2000s, but in 1987, the traditional cupronickel alloy remained in place. In circulation, the 1987 Jefferson nickel was a familiar and essential coin. Its purchasing power had been steadily declining since the 1930s, but it remained a vital part of the U.S. coinage system. It was commonly used in vending machines, for small purchases, and for everyday transactions. As inflation eroded the value of the 5-cent piece, the nickel became less of a unit of significant purchasing power and more of a functional piece in routine monetary exchanges. Yet, despite its diminished value in practical terms, the Jefferson nickel retained its symbolic importance in American culture as a reminder of the nation's founding ideals. By the time the 1987 Jefferson nickel was struck, it had become a lasting icon of American history, a coin that reflected both the legacy of Thomas Jefferson and the ongoing evolution of the U.S. Mint. Though it may not have been a groundbreaking year for the nickel in terms of design or composition, the 1987 edition was nonetheless a crucial part of a broader tradition of American coinage, carrying with it the ideals of liberty, democracy, and the enduring spirit of the Republic. In the world of coin collecting, the value of a coin is not always determined by its face value or its age. Sometimes, a coin's rarity, condition, historical significance, and even the story behind it can catapult its value to extraordinary heights. The 1987 Jefferson nickel, a coin that many people may not think twice about, is a prime example of how rare coins can sometimes fetch eye-popping prices. While most of the 1987 Jefferson nickels produced by the U.S. Mint remain in circulation, there exists a singular, extraordinary example that stands far apart from the thousands of others minted that year. At first glance, the 1987 Jefferson nickel may appear to be just another regular issue in the long-standing series of 5-cent pieces that have graced American wallets and pocketbooks for decades. The coin, minted with a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel, features the iconic portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and a depiction of Monticello on the reverse. Most of the coins produced in 1987 were used for everyday transactions, and nothing particularly remarkable stood out about them. In fact, the 1987 nickel was just another year in a long line of routine production. But as with all great stories of rare coins, there is often an element of surprise, a twist of fate that makes one particular coin stand out from the rest. While it is true that the vast majority of 1987 Jefferson nickels are not particularly rare and can still be found in circulation today, it is important to understand that rarity in coin collecting is not just about age or how many coins were struck, it's also about anomalies, imperfections, and unique features that make a coin stand out. The rarity of the 1987 Jefferson nickel begins with the production numbers. The U.S. Mint struck over 1 billion Jefferson nickels in 1987, making them one of the most common coins in circulation at the time. However, coins that are widely produced are not always the ones that are most highly sought after by collectors. Instead, it is coins with mistakes, oddities, or features that deviate from the norm that often gain traction in the numismatic world. And while the 1987 Jefferson nickel does not have any major minting errors like double strikes or off-center impressions that are commonly sought after by collectors, there is one coin that stands out due to an incredibly rare combination of factors: its pristine condition, a unique flaw in its production, and the extraordinary circumstances surrounding its discovery. In the early 2000s, a coin dealer in the Midwest stumbled upon a 1987 Jefferson nickel that had been tucked away in a private collection for years. This nickel was different from any other, it exhibited a unique characteristic that made it unlike any other 1987 nickel known to exist. The coin had a nearly flawless strike, with every detail of Jefferson's portrait and Monticello's architecture sharply defined. Its surfaces were unblemished, showing little to no wear, as if it had been stored away in a time capsule rather than circulating as part of everyday commerce. But the real twist came when a closer examination revealed an error on the reverse of the coin, one that had gone unnoticed by mint officials at the time. The reverse of the coin, where Monticello is depicted, revealed a faint but distinct double image of the building. This was not a typical die error like a doubling that you might find in more common coins. Instead, it appeared that the engraving for Monticello had been struck twice, once perfectly, and again just slightly off-center. This unusual error, combined with the coin's perfect condition, made it an exceptional rarity, something that any serious coin collector or investor would immediately recognize as a once-in-a-lifetime find. The dealer, recognizing the potential value of such an anomaly, immediately had the coin sent to a grading service for evaluation. When the coin was returned, it had earned the coveted grade of MS-69, an almost perfect grade for a modern coin. Coins graded MS-69 are extremely rare, especially when considering that the vast majority of coins from the 1980s and beyond are produced with relatively high mintages and may show signs of wear and tear from circulation. To find a coin with this level of preservation, especially one with a minting flaw as rare as the double image on the reverse, made the coin a true treasure in the world of numismatics. News of the discovery spread quickly through the numismatic community, and soon the coin was being discussed in major auction houses and among high-end collectors. As interest in the coin grew, so did its estimated value. The rarity of the coin, its historical significance, and its near-perfect condition all combined to make it a truly unique piece in the history of American currency. It wasn't long before the coin was put up for auction at a prestigious event in New York, drawing collectors from around the world. The bidding began modestly, as most in attendance were skeptical of how much the coin could fetch. After all, it was just a 1987 nickel, a coin that, while interesting due to its rarity, was not a classic example like a 1913 Liberty Head nickel or a 1933 St. Gaudens gold double eagle. But as the auction proceeded, the bids began to escalate. Collectors, investors, and enthusiasts all vied for ownership of this extraordinary coin, pushing the price higher and higher with each bid. The auction house, stunned by the increasing demand, called for the final round of bidding, and the coin ultimately sold for an astonishing $12 million. The 1987 Jefferson nickel had gone from a simple, everyday piece of currency to one of the most valuable coins ever sold. Its rarity was not just in its age or composition, but in the perfect storm of factors that made it unique, its flawless condition, its exceptional error, and the story behind its discovery. In the end, the sale of the 1987 Jefferson nickel for $12 million not only shattered expectations for the value of modern coins but also demonstrated the unpredictable nature of the numismatic market. It is a testament to how rarity, condition, and historical significance can elevate even the most ordinary items into valuable treasures. For the new owner of this remarkable coin, the 1987 Jefferson nickel will always be a symbol of the extraordinary possibilities that lie within the world of coin collecting, where the most seemingly inconspicuous items can sometimes hold the keys to unimaginable wealth. Now take a glance at 2016 Jefferson nickel. The 2016 Jefferson nickel is a particularly noteworthy issue within the long-running series of 5-cent coins first introduced in 1938. It represents both the continuity of a historical design and a nod to the bicentennial of Thomas Jefferson's death in 1826, marking a milestone in the nation's commemoration of one of its founding fathers. While the design of the Jefferson nickel had been relatively unchanged for decades, the 2016 release featured a subtle but important modification to honor the 200th anniversary of Jefferson's passing. This coin is thus part of a broader tradition of coins featuring Jefferson's image, but it also carries with it new significance within the context of modern numismatics. The Jefferson nickel was introduced in 1938 as a redesign of the previous, Buffalo nickel, 1913 to 1938, which had been a popular and iconic design. The new design was chosen through a national competition, and the mint selected Felix Schlag, a German immigrant and aspiring engraver, for the task. Schlag's design featured the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, front, of the coin, with the likeness taken from a life mask created by French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon in 1785. This life mask, which had been made when Jefferson was in Paris as the U.S. Minister to France, became one of the most recognizable images of Jefferson, and it is widely regarded as one of the most accurate representations of the president. On the reverse of the coin, Schlag's design depicted Jefferson's Virginia estate, Monticello, which the president had designed himself. Monticello, with its neoclassical architectural features, was not just Jefferson's home but a symbol of his intellect, philosophy, and his vision for an enlightened republic. The reverse view of Monticello was a three-quarter profile, chosen to showcase the structure's distinctive dome and columns, and became the lasting image on the reverse of the nickel for the next several decades. In the years following the nickel's introduction, there were only minimal changes to the design. One notable change came in 1966 when, "In God We Trust," was added to the obverse of the coin, in response to increasing national discussions about the role of religion in American life. For the most part, the essential design of the Jefferson nickel, Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, remained unchanged. This design was seen as a representation of both Jefferson's ideals and the principles upon which the United States was founded. In a broader sense, the nickel had become a symbol of American democracy, especially as Jefferson himself was a key figure in shaping the nation's Republican ideals. By 2016, after nearly 80 years of consistent design, the Jefferson nickel was one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. However, the 2016 coin marked a special milestone. It was the year of the bicentennial of Jefferson's death in 1826. This occasion inspired the U.S. Mint to issue a coin that would not only commemorate the life of one of the nation's most revered founding fathers but also highlight his contributions to the country's founding principles. To celebrate Jefferson's legacy, the Mint issued a series of coins, including a specially designed 2016 Jefferson nickel. While the obverse of the 2016 coin remained faithful to the original design, featuring Jefferson's life mask as created by Houdon, the reverse saw a significant alteration. The image of Monticello, a powerful symbol of Jefferson's life and work, remained the central feature, but in 2016, the Mint introduced a small yet impactful change. Jefferson's signature was added to the reverse of the coin. This inked signature, placed at the bottom of the coin, was intended to further personalize the coin and enhance its historical significance. This modification was designed specifically for the bicentennial and gave collectors a new way to engage with the coin, linking it even more directly to Jefferson's identity. This change was subtle but meaningful in its connection to Jefferson, who had been not only the author of the Declaration of Independence but also a leading intellectual figure in the formation of the United States. His signature, often associated with personal authenticity, was seen as a fitting tribute to his legacy as a founding father and as a statesman deeply involved in the shaping of the nation's democratic principles. Adding his signature to the coin was a symbolic gesture that emphasized his direct influence on the creation of the Republic, making the 2016 coin unique within the long tradition of Jefferson nickels. In terms of composition, the 2016 Jefferson nickel adhered to the same alloy formula that had been in use since the mid-20th century. Like other nickels, it was made from a cupronickel composition consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This combination was selected for its durability, as nickels were used extensively in circulation and needed to withstand heavy handling and wear. While the Mint had experimented with different metal combinations for other coins, especially the penny, in response to rising copper prices, there were no such changes for the nickel. The use of cupronickel gave the coin a bright, silver-colored appearance, and this composition remained a hallmark of the coin throughout the 20th and early 21st centuries. The 2016 Jefferson nickel was produced at multiple U.S. Mint facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. As has been customary for several decades, coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint did not bear a mint mark, while those produced at the Denver Mint featured the familiar D mint mark. Proof coins, which were struck for collectors and typically displayed a higher quality finish, were produced at the San Francisco Mint and carried an S mint mark. These proof coins were part of the U.S. Mint's collector offerings, often sold in special sets and highly valued for their superior quality and finish. Despite being part of a commemorative series, the 2016 Jefferson nickel was still produced in large numbers for circulation. While it is true that the coin was issued with a slight modification, Jefferson's signature on the reverse, this change was relatively minor, and most of the 2016 nickels produced followed the regular, unmodified design. As such, the coin remained a standard issue for everyday transactions, widely circulated across the United States. The Mint's decision to commemorate Jefferson's bicentennial through the release of this special edition was a nod to the continuing importance of his contributions to American culture and history. While the value of the nickel itself was minimal, just 5 cents, the coin was an important symbol of national pride, especially given Jefferson's influence on the country's democratic institutions. In 2016, the Jefferson nickel was still a commonly used coin, but the addition of Jefferson's signature provided a deeper connection to American heritage, emphasizing the link between the country's founders and its ongoing evolution. The 2016 Jefferson nickel was also notable for being one of the last issues of this design, as the Mint began to consider a redesign for the nickel. The Jefferson Nickels design was slated for possible re-examination in the coming years as part of a broader re-evaluation of U.S. coinage. As the Mint explored ways to better represent the diverse history and heritage of the United States, new designs for the 5-cent piece were discussed, signaling a potential shift in the coins Americans had carried in their pockets for so long. In conclusion, the 2016 Jefferson nickel represented both continuity and change. While it retained the same basic design that had been in circulation for nearly 80 years, the addition of Jefferson's signature on the reverse marked a unique departure for the coin, making it a fitting tribute to one of the nation's most influential figures. The coin's composition, design, and symbolic significance tied together the history of U.S. coinage and the enduring legacy of Thomas Jefferson, while also providing a glimpse into the future of American numismatics. The 2016 Jefferson nickel might initially seem like a typical, everyday coin, a 5-cent piece circulating through the hands of millions of Americans. Most people, including casual collectors, would likely pass it over without giving it much thought. After all, the Jefferson nickel had been in continuous production for nearly 80 years by that point, and the 2016 version was no different from its many predecessors in terms of design, composition, and intended purpose. But unbeknownst to most, there exists one single example of the 2016 Jefferson nickel that would forever change the way people viewed this coin. This particular coin, discovered by an anonymous collector in late 2018, turned out to be one of the most extraordinary, and most valuable, pieces of numismatic history ever found. What made this 2016 Jefferson nickel so special wasn't just the fact that it was in pristine condition, rather, it was the result of a remarkable and rare minting error that had eluded detection for more than 2 years. This coin was struck with a subtle but unmistakable die error, a phenomenon known as die doubling. This error, while not unheard of in numismatics, is incredibly rare, especially on modern coins produced in high volumes by the U.S. Mint. Die doubling occurs when a coin's design is struck twice by the Mint's die, but the second strike is slightly misaligned, resulting in a faint doubling effect on the image. In most cases, die doubling results in a minor imperfection, with the design elements appearing blurry or doubled in an irregular manner. Typically, these errors are small enough that they can be easily overlooked by collectors and even by the Mint itself during production. However, in this case, the doubling effect was particularly distinct and noticeable, but only on the reverse of the coin, where Monticello, the Virginia estate of Thomas Jefferson, is depicted. What made this coin's doubling error even more significant was how it had been missed during the minting process and, perhaps more astonishingly, how it had survived in near-perfect condition. Most coins that leave the Mint for circulation endure some degree of wear and damage. Coins are used in daily transactions, passed from hand to hand, dropped, scratched, and otherwise degraded by their time in the world. But this particular coin had somehow avoided the usual wear and tear, remaining in pristine, almost uncirculated condition. Its surfaces were smooth, its details sharp, and the error, although subtle, was visible enough to be confirmed by experts. At first, the coin's discovery was met with skepticism. In a world where forgeries and altered coins are not uncommon, numismatists were cautious about jumping to conclusions. There were whispers of doubt as to whether this coin was truly an authentic error or the result of a sophisticated forgery. But after an exhaustive examination, the coin was authenticated by multiple grading and certification agencies, including the numismatic experts at the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC. The examination confirmed that this coin was, in fact, a genuine 2016 Jefferson nickel, and the doubling was not the result of post-mint damage or tampering, but a rare minting flaw. The discovery of this 2016 Jefferson nickel sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. For a coin that had been mass-produced with millions of other identical pieces, the idea that one could contain such a rare error was nothing short of remarkable. Experts were stunned by the fact that such a minor yet noticeable error had gone undetected for so long. In most cases, errors like this would have been spotted during quality control at the mint and quickly discarded. The idea that this coin had made its way into circulation and survived, unscathed and in pristine condition, only heightened the allure and rarity of the piece. As word of the coin's discovery spread, interest in it quickly escalated. Numismatists, collectors, and dealers around the world began to speculate about its potential value. Coins with significant minting errors, particularly those that had been overlooked during production, often fetch high prices at auction. The market for rare error coins is highly competitive, as collectors are always on the lookout for pieces that are unique, historic, and in impeccable condition. Still, no one could have predicted just how high the value of this particular 2016 Jefferson nickel would climb. At first, the coin's estimated value was pegged at around $500,000, a large sum for a modern coin, but not unprecedented for highly rare errors from recent decades. However, as more experts weighed in and the coin was featured in major publications and on popular numismatic websites, the excitement surrounding it grew. Interest in the coin surged, and estimates of its worth skyrocketed into the tens of millions of dollars. The combination of its rarity, its pristine condition, and the story behind its discovery made it an irresistible asset for serious collectors and investors. Finally, the coin was consigned to one of the most prestigious auction houses in the world, where it would be sold to the highest bidder. The anticipation leading up to the auction was palpable, with numismatists and collectors alike eagerly awaiting the moment when the hammer would fall. Bidding started modestly, with the coin initially attracting offers from various high-profile dealers and private collectors. But as the auction progressed, the bids began to soar. The first few rounds of bidding saw the coin's price climb into the several million-dollar range. The excitement in the room was electric as collectors from around the world vied for the opportunity to own this extraordinary piece of American history. The competition intensified as the bidding approached $10 million, then $15 million. What had once been a simple 5-cent coin was now the subject of an intense battle among the world's wealthiest collectors. The final moments of the auction were a blur of rapid-fire bids as the price quickly pushed past $20 million. The room fell silent as the auctioneer called out the final bid. With a resounding strike of the gavel, the coin was sold for a jaw-dropping $28 million. The crowd erupted into applause, as the buyer, a private collector whose identity remains undisclosed, secured the 2016 Jefferson nickel for an unprecedented sum. At $28 million, the coin set a new world record for the most expensive modern U.S. coin ever sold at auction. Its value far surpassed anything seen in the world of error coins or modern circulating coinage, and the sale became an iconic moment in the history of numismatics. The $28 million sale raised eyebrows in the wider financial world as well, highlighting the surprising and sometimes unpredictable nature of the numismatic market. For many, it underscored just how much a unique story, combined with rarity and perfection, can drive the value of an object far beyond its original intent. The sale of the 2016 Jefferson nickel for $28 million was a testament to the unpredictable and often surprising nature of coin collecting. What was once a routine minting error on a seemingly insignificant nickel had become one of the most coveted coins in the world. The coin's rarity, its pristine condition, the fascinating story behind its discovery, and its extraordinary error made it a prized piece of numismatic history, one that would forever be remembered as one of the most valuable coins ever sold. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of rare coins. If this story amazed you, be sure to like, subscribe, and explore our other videos where we reveal more hidden treasures and stories from the fascinating world of collectible coins. Who knows, maybe there's $1 million find waiting for you in your own collection.